everybody, it's Jamie Dougherty. I'm here to show you Swirlydoos December's Mediums Kit. I'm going to be creating a couple little ATC cards to show you how you can utilize the mediums in the kit. Now the kit comes with an Art Basics Gesso and Clear. This is by Prima. You also get a Viva Blackberry, the Ferro. It's a dimensional paste. You also get 2 of the Inklings by Shimmers paints. These are, let me see what colors. We have Jewel and we also have French Twist. And you also receive a 6x6 stencil by the Crafters Workshop. I'm going to go ahead and you can take any ATC. ATC cards are 2.5 by 3.5 inches. I'm going to find a couple. I have a couple wood ones here. These are by Prima. They come with designs on the front. I'm going to use the back sides that aren't, embossed or cut. And I'm going to go ahead and open my stencil. We're going to do a couple different techniques here. Now the wood is going to take our mediums different than paper would, of course. But let's go ahead and start with the first one. Now the first one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a clear coat of gesso. Now it comes out white, but once it's dry, it will dry clear. I'm going to take a paintbrush. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to put a lot on here. I just want to show you the difference of how your mediums would go on to the gesso compared to the raw wood. So we're just going to put a light haphazard coat on. You can see the difference a little bit between the texture. You can see there the texture of the medium and the wood. And I'm going to do another one with a full coat of clear gesso. Now the clear gesso is a little bit grittier than your white gesso would be. Oh, I got a little hair in there. Wipe that off. I'm going to cover this entire piece with clear gesso, and the third one I'm going to keep raw. All right. Go ahead and dry those. Now ATCs don't have to just be traded. You could also use these on card fronts or mixed media albums. You can utilize these or use these in a lot of different ways. Alright. So the Inklings are like a solid watercolor that has a shimmer. I'm going to go ahead and take my brush, my paintbrush, get it wet. And we're going to add water into that pool of paint. Now, ultimately, you'd want that paint to sit, or the water to sit in the well of paint for a good amount of time. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint right over the top of our wood piece. It's a very soft color. Add a little bit more water. Get a little more water in our little painter's well. Again, I would suggest letting the water sit in the well for about 5 or 10 minutes before you start working with it, because what that will do is get that medium moving a little bit more. Now you can see here where my wood is pulling more of the paint than my clear gesso. You can see the difference in texture there. Alright, so this one I just took my Inklings in the French Twist. That's what I'm going to do to prep the back on that one. Now I'm going to take our jewel, do the same thing. Add water to this well, stir it up really well. You want to let it sit for a little bit because what that does is it turns it into almost a cream. I'm going to paint the whole piece with this. And it's water soluble. It's like a watercolor. Gives it a nice whitewashed finish to it. And then this one I'm going to leave bare. All right. So now what I'm going to do is, for this little guy right here, I'm going to take our Pharaoh by Viva. Ooh, this looks so yummy. I'm going to go ahead and put my stencil right over the top. Let's use this circle one. I'm going to take a palette knife, scoop some out of our little tub, and smooth that right over the top. It's got a sand texture to it. You don't want it too thick. I overlapped one of my stencils, but that's okay. A quick tip, what you could do is take masking tape and mask around. If you've got a cluster of stencils on one piece, you could take masking tape and tape around the one that you plan on using, and that way you don't have any over spray or you know, spread over the wrong part of the stencil. Okay, so this one, I'm going to pull up some of this color here. I'm going to just fix my oops by spreading some of the color out. We'll add a little bit more around just the edges here. You always have opportunities when you make a mistake. Okay. I really like this bright color. It's very pretty. You could see how dark you could get it and also how light. So we have that one, and we're going to go ahead and heat set all of these. Okay. So I showed you how the twinklings, the shimmers, inklings painted on the wood with the fully primed and the partially primed. This is the fully primed, and then this is the partially primed, and then this was the raw. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our French twist, now that this is dry. You want to make sure it's pretty dry. I'm going to go ahead and paint around the background with some of our inklings. Now again, you want to add a good amount of water to the well. We are using it as a watercolor. It is a watercolor. And then we're going to go ahead and add in right around the edge. That yellow, that nice gold's really pretty against our purple. You could even paint over the top to kind of give the purple a more vintage, softer feel. And this is sucking right into our wood, our bare wood. Wood's a nice surface to work on with all of your art mediums. Okay. You see that fun little card? What we could do too is add another layer of our stencil right over the top. I'm going to dry this layer. Okay. I'm going to take a different part of our stencil. Let's use this one on top of our faded purple, since we used the gold over the top. And you could layer them like this. You can add layer upon layer. With this being a dimensional paste, you can add different textures and layers to it. Now the background almost looks like felt now that we added the gold to it. And then you add the purple on top, it just makes it pop even more. Just makes it nice and bright. Now you could do this with your other cards as well. You could also, the gesso is a little thin to push through a stencil. I wouldn't suggest it just because it is more of a fluid gel medium, or not gel medium, sorry, more of a fluid gesso. But here's just a couple ideas for you to use the Art Mediums kit for December. You can use it on pieces of wood. It's fun just to add accents to your scrapbook pages. You could even use it on in your art journal the same way. When you use the clear gesso over any type of porous surface, what it does is it creates that barrier, and the gesso will create your primed surface, and you can leave pieces of your page open so that your art mediums absorb into the background paper differently than it would with the gesso. Again, the gesso has more of a textured, the clear gesso has more of a textured texture, more of a gritty texture to it than your white or black gesso would. So keep that in mind. It works really well with a lot of different mediums, from pastels to watercolors and things like that. So here's one, again, just a little overview. I went and took our clear gesso over our entire card here. I didn't gesso this one at all. And then I took and painted parts of this card with the clear gesso, and then took our inklings over the cards. Now, if you want more of a bolder look to this one, you can go in now that it's dry. You could add even more paint. Now that my paint's been sitting, you could see that it's more of a creamy finish. It's coming off like a cream onto my paintbrush, and I can add even more to the card. And that gesso is going to resist more of my paints. And same as if you'd use it on a piece of paper. All right. Now also, the heavier you put the gesso, the more barrier, the thicker the barrier will be. So remember that if you want heavier spots in some places, thinner spots in others, just keep that in mind, that it will differ the way that your paints work depending on how thick you put your clear gesso on. Alrighty, there's a quick video on how, just a little bit of information on the Swirlydoos December Mediums kit. I hope you have fun with the kit. I can't wait to see how you use it with your other kits for December. And until next time, happy creating and happy holidays.